Hey now. Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
Hey now. Hi everybody, welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Today, I'm going to do a slightly shorter episode because I'm aware that there's a number of people, my Spotify listeners, that did not hear yesterday's episode. And to be honest with you, I'm really not sure why. I know yesterday's episode did show up on Apple and on Amazon. It showed up on YouTube and just about everywhere else, but not on Spotify. And I'm not sure why, but if it doesn't show up soon, I'm going to make an effort to try and repost that episode. So there's a possibility you might get a notification that there's a new episode that's not actually new. It would be yesterday's episode. But hey, you're here for this one, and this is what I've got coming up for you today. I'm going to do the best I can, the highlights from Donald Trump's State of the Union speech last night. But here's the thing. A record-setting speech. It went on just under 2 hours. No. You don't have to sit through 2 hours. What I'm going to do is take out some impactful moments that I think people are interested in hearing about, or the ones that are making the headlines. And I'm going to give you that 2 hour State of the Union in 15 minutes or less. That's coming up. First off, though, there's a couple of things happening around here that I want to talk about. What are we going to do when the American hockey players, the ones that won the gold medal on Sunday, what are we going to do when they start playing for their Canadian team again and they get in front of the hometown fans? And in particular, I'm thinking about Austin Matthews returning to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their first home game is on Saturday. What about Connor Hellebuyck returning to the Winnipeg Jets? Are they going to get booed because they went to the White House yesterday? Because that's what I'm seeing a lot of on social media. A lot of people that do not like the Americans or do not like Donald Trump, and they want to take it out on an athlete that happens to have the wrong passport. They were born in America. They play for a Canadian team. Can I just suggest this? If you're thinking about booing one of the players that we're counting on to do great things for the teams that we love, let's try and not mix sports and politics. It doesn't need to be that way. When the U.S. team accepted the invitation yesterday to go to the State of the Union, to go to the Oval Office and meet with President Trump, I don't blame them for doing that. They were playing for their country. The president of their country invited them to be congratulated and honored. I don't have a problem with that. We can get back to regular NHL politics very soon, but either way, I don't have a problem with Austin Matthews or Connor Hellebuyck or any of the other ones that are American, but playing on Canadian teams. I don't think they should get booed in their own building. I think it's irresponsible. If you were thinking about doing it, I'm just going to ask that you probably not. It's not good for our teams. We want to see them win. We want to see them do well. And I don't think we should be booing players that we are counting on most of the time. Yesterday, I did send out a tweet, and it was an innocent enough tweet on my end. I was just looking for information. Let me tell you what that tweet said. Regarding Mexico, how did we go from shelter in place, stay in your hotel, contact the embassy, to everything's back to normal and flights are resuming within 24 hours? I got to tell you, almost 400,000 views on that tweet. It is incredible how many people in Mexico picked up on that tweet. And I've learned a few things about this situation in Mexico that seem to be agreed upon in the comments. And a lot of those comments, again, were from Mexico. What I'm hearing is it was overblown on social media. It wasn't as bad as it looked on television and on social. So that's one thing. I've heard that the cartels are not interested in harming tourists because they want tourists to come down there, because the cartels are integrated into just about every industry in Mexico, including tourism. And I've heard that the Mexican people really would like if you came down there. I'm also hearing a lot of things like, that's just another day in Mexico. Little outburst of violence and then everything goes back to normal, but no tourists got hurt. Those are the kind of things that are in the comments, and I'm really having a hard time processing that. You know, Sunday and Monday, I was looking at a pretty dire situation, it seemed, in Puerto Vallarta, but all of the comments from people, or the majority of them in Mexico, are saying, hey, don't worry about it, everything's fine. So at the moment, our government still has a fairly mild advisory if you're thinking of going to Mexico for, say, spring break. I guess you can go. I would certainly register with Foreign Affairs, though, the embassy, and I would recommend that you use the utmost caution and maybe consider not leaving the resort if you're going down to Mexico. That's just my anecdotal advice from going through hundreds of comments on that. But thank you to everybody who took the time to respond. It was a good discussion, and I did get a lot of interesting info out of it. Now let's get to the pod. I want to start off with something that got announced yesterday, and it kind of got buried by the news cycle, but I think this is something that Canadians are interested in hearing. We're giving billions more to Ukraine.
But 4 years on, Russia is failing militarily, strategically, and economically. And we are in it for the long term. Canada and the coalition of the willing. And to that end, we will announce shortly, I'm going to announce now, I guess, that we are tightening sanctions, including on the Shadow Fleet, additional 100 vessels in Russia's Shadow Fleet. This is the fleet that effectively facilitates illegal exports of crude oil. So we're tightening that lifeblood from the Russian economy, along with our allies. Also, additional financial sanctions, a lowering of the oil price cap in coordination with the EU and the United Kingdom. In addition, $2 billion of additional aid, military aid for Ukraine over the course of the next year. We're announcing that today. The Minister of National Defense will give details. In addition to that, something Ukraine needs, which is 400 armored vehicles.
That's all I'm going to play from the Prime Minister. That was just a little bit of his remarks yesterday outside the House of Commons. Another $2 billion is going to Ukraine. Yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. 4 years later, and it doesn't seem like the Russians have made much progress in their invasion. Now, I'm not going to comment too much on the military tactics of Russia, but is it really that they couldn't make any more progress, or they decided they didn't want to make any more progress? I'd always been led to believe the Russian military was one of the most powerful on earth. And it seems to be struggling against Ukraine. So, hey, if you're pro-Ukraine, which I don't know many people that aren't, that wouldn't like to see this war end, I'm a little surprised at how little progress Russia has made in 4 years. There's a lot of people who thought they could have taken the entire country in a couple of weeks if they really wanted to. So the motives behind that are still a little questionable. But back to this $2 billion. I mean, we're broke. I think everybody understands that. When you look at the situation around, the number of people that are using food banks, the various crises that are happening now, the number of people getting laid off in the civil service, we don't have any money here in Canada. And to give away another $2 billion when so many people here are struggling, that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. A lot of people don't understand how we can do that or where we're coming up with that money. Newsflash, it's probably going to be printed money. And when we print money, that bids up inflation even more because it devalues every dollar that's in circulation. So, I mean, think what you want about that. I'm sure there's some people that think, hell yeah, give them all the money they need. But I hear from a lot of people that say, we're done. That's enough. We are per capita the biggest supporter of Ukraine. Why are we giving another $2 billion? And aren't there any other countries that have a vested interest in this that could donate a little bit? Why is it always Canada that has to do this? The Americans have turned it into a business. They stopped just giving handouts. They're now making other countries who want to support Ukraine buy weapons from them to give to Ukraine. So the Americans are essentially done with that foreign aid. But here in Canada, we just keep throwing money out the door. And if I'm reading the room right, and it's possible that I'm not here, but if I'm reading the room right, it doesn't seem like there's much appetite amongst Canadians to continue sending that much money to Ukraine on an ongoing basis, especially with the obvious conflict. Chrystia Freeland, former Deputy Prime Minister. Mark Carney is the godfather of her son. She's the one who's trying to drum up all this support for Ukraine, and we just keep falling for it. That should be an obvious conflict of interest, and I don't understand why it's not getting called out. This did come up in the House of Commons yesterday. Liberal Member of Parliament Yvonne Baker talking about Russia and Ukraine.
Today marks 4 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Ukrainian people have been outmanned and outgunned, but they've shown tremendous courage in defending their homeland. Unable to win on the battlefield, Russia has resolved to pursue war crimes, including most recently trying to destroy the power grid to freeze millions of Ukrainians into surrender. They will never surrender, but they need our help. For me, Speaker, there are two reasons we support Ukraine. The first is it is the right thing to do. It is the moral thing to do. And the second reason is because it is the right thing for Canada. If Russia wins, it will not stop at Ukraine, and NATO countries will be next. And we know this because Vladimir Putin has told us so. That's why Ukraine's victory is vital to Canada's security. Now, Canada's been a global leader in supporting Ukraine since 2022 with over $25 billion in support, and I know that under the Prime Minister's leadership, that support will continue. The Ukrainian people are not only fighting for their own freedom and security, they're also fighting for ours, and we need to fight for them until they win, until we all win. Slava Ukraini.
All right, that is Liberal Member of Parliament Yvonne Baker. $25 billion, and I believe that was pre the $2 billion that we announced yesterday. Hey, where are you at on this one? Because let me ask you a serious question when it comes to Ukraine. Do you support Ukraine? Because if you do support Ukraine, I'm going to assume you are anti-Russia. If you're anti-Russia, then how do you feel about this new strategic partnership that we in Canada have with China? Because China is one of the biggest backers of Russia. These things are all conflicting now, and frankly, I really don't know what we stand for in Canada anymore. It's very confusing. I don't know what our values are anymore. We want to partner up with China. China is aligned with Russia. Russia's attacking Ukraine. We consider Ukraine an ally. And we keep giving them money. Hey, feel however you want to feel about it. I'm not going to go any further into this. I just wanted to get it on your radar that another big announcement got made. More money for Ukraine. Let's go to yesterday in Ottawa. We haven't done any question period in a while. I said I was going to give it a bit of a break because it's question period and very few answers. So let's see if we get any answers this time. The topic to start the day is Pierre Poilievre asking a question of the Prime Minister specifically about immigration.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve good quality health care. But after a decade of this Liberal government, 6 million Canadians do not have a family doctor. Part of the reason is that mass, out-of-control Liberal immigration has overwhelmed the system. And many of those resources are going to people who are here illegally and have been rejected. There has been a 1,000% increase in the cost of providing deluxe benefits to many people who are here illegally. Will the Prime Minister reverse this policy, support our motion, and put Canadians first for health care?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes, Canada is not America. Yes, Canada provides essential health care to everyone in this country. The increase in costs in this program referenced in the opposition motion is a result of the increase in applicants for that program. Now, what has this government done? This government has taken back control of immigration. This government has reduced the number of temporary workers in this country by 50%, the demanders of asylum seekers by 1/3, and we're modern.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The problem is that this government is not taking care of health care for the Canadian people. 6 million do not have a family doctor. 100,000 people died on waiting lists since the Liberals unleashed out-of-control immigration. There are currently literally thousands of people who are waiting for procedures as we speak. And the Prime Minister claims he's getting it under control, but it's all an illusion. He's just another Liberal. There has been a 3,000% increase in refugee claims under his out-of-control system. Will he rein it in, support our motion, and put Canadians first?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to coming up to my 1-year anniversary as Prime Minister.
Hear, hear.
During that time, new asylum claims have gone down by 1/3. During that time, temporary students have gone down by 60%. During that time, temporary workers have gone down by 50%. We have the immigration system under control, and we're supplying the health care Canadians.
Hear, hear.
Those numbers are very misleading, by the way, from the Prime Minister, because we clearly have an out-of-control immigration problem. I think everybody sees that. He says that he's the solution. He says everybody in the country deserves health care. How do you feel about that? Because not everybody in the country pays taxes. Some of these people are here, and we know full well they don't have a bona fide claim to asylum. They're going to get rejected, but they get better health benefits now than Canadians do. Stuff that Canadians pay out of pocket for, they get for free. Is that right? Do you think that's fair? Is that just that people who don't pay into the system are here illegally, are getting better health benefits than the people who pay taxes, than the people who live here full time? Is that fair? I will leave that up to your judgment. I promised you I would give you the State of the Union speech in 15 minutes or less. So let's start the clock. You don't have to watch the whole 2 hours from last night. I'm going to give you the best parts. Here is last night at the Capitol, President Trump with the State of the Union.
This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance. He'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly.
Okay, that's just a little bit of President Trump announcing that J.D. Vance, the vice president, is going to be in charge of rooting out fraud. That would be fraud, people defrauding the government. That would be, I know it would be the government. I'm wondering, would it be fraud, though, in the sense that regular people are getting ripped off all the time? There's a ton of fraud scams out there, and people keep falling for them, and they're losing a lot of money. I don't know if that'll be part of the vice president's mandate, but either way, we know there's a lot of people that are ripping off the government. It just got announced yesterday the federal government was subsidizing like 16 different businesses that have all already declared bankruptcy. And we still keep sending them taxpayer money. That would be an example of fraud. And J.D. Vance is going to be in charge of rooting that out. Let's get on to another clip. This one is probably the one that everybody is going to be talking about in America. President Trump did something different. He wanted to make a point, and he wanted to make it obvious. If you think, as an elected representative here in this chamber, that your job is to stand up for the American people, then I'm going to ask you right now to stand up. The Democrats did not stand. Listen to this.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
By the way, just so everybody knows, I am not editing any of the president's remarks. You deserve to hear him as he gave those remarks, although there were some sound issues. For whatever reason, they had his mic very overmodulated. And the only thing I am editing out is some of the applause and the standing ovations, because let's try and make this efficient for you and your time today. None of the Democrats stood up. Let me ask you, if Pierre Poilievre stood in the House of Commons and said, if you believe, as an elected representative of the Canadian people, your job is to prioritize the Canadian people first. Stand up. Do you think anyone in the Liberal government would stand up? Because essentially what happened in America last night is all of the Republicans, the conservatives, they all stood up and gave a minute-long standing ovation. None of the Democrats rose last night. They all stayed in their seat. Clearly, immigration is an issue. It's a hill that they want to fall on. Let's go on. Let's keep giving you the highlights. Donald Trump, again, with another controversial moment last night. This is about 1 minute long.
But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we've been talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy. Amazing, gentlemen. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we?
What the president was referring to there is a practice where if a child wants to declare themselves transgender and they want to undergo a gender reassignment surgery, the parents don't necessarily have to be informed. That's a policy that they're pushing for in America. And Donald Trump is saying, absolutely not. You are not going to transition a kid without their parents even knowing, let alone consenting. Again, all of the Democrats sat down. They would not stand up for that point. Let me ask you again, if we did that in Canada, stand up if you think that parents have a right to know that their kid is trans and that they want to have a gender reassignment surgery. Stand up if you think parents have to consult about that, or if parents have to give consent for that. Stand up. Do you think our Liberal government would stand up? Do you think our NDP members would stand up? Do you think our Green members would stand up? I can already tell you the Conservatives would rise for that, in all likelihood. Would the other parties, though? This is an interesting way that Donald Trump is using a visual, by the way, because this is all over social media already, and it creates an amazing visual for the users to see who stands on which side of the issue. Sometimes the politicians like to cloud the issue and not really tell you how they feel. This was an excellent way of demonstrating who is on what side. Another moment from last night in the State of the Union.
The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago.
Ugh, yikes. When he goes off script, man, he goes way off script. But there are some people fact-checking that lowest murder rate. I believe it depends on how you look at the numbers. But either way, it's something that people are talking about. The fact that crime seems to be much more under control than it was. Continuing to blow through the State of the Union. I promised it to you in 15 minutes or less, and I'm running low on time. Last night, the topic of voter ID came up. See, President Trump and the Republicans want people to have to prove their identity in order to vote in an election, because it seems like there's been some very shady things that went on, particularly in states that don't require ID. It came up last night, and he gave an interesting example using the mayor of New York, who is against voter ID.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
Again, no applause, no standing ovation from the Democrats. The ones in Congress anyway, seem to be very opposed to people having to show identification before they vote in an election. And it's funny because the opinion polls, when you just ask regular people, it's almost 80% of Americans think you should have to prove who you are and that you're an American citizen in order to vote. It's the Democratic lawmakers that don't seem to agree with that. Another one from President Trump, this one on AI. I'm sure you've heard a lot about the fact that AI seems to use an insane amount of electricity. An insane amount. In fact, some of the AI data farms are going to have to install their own nuclear reactors because they're going to use up so much hydro. President Trump says that will not fall on the backs of the taxpayers.
I have negotiated the new ratepayer protection pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is
Okay, that's good. I think people, generally speaking, would like to know that they're not going to have to pay extra for AI, which is already threatening so many jobs and livelihoods. I've got two more to go from President Trump. This one on a topic that is going to be coming up a lot over the next couple of weeks, the situation with Iran.
We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong, because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective.
Okay, President Trump, not suggesting that there won't be drama with Iran, but saying he hopes there's not, and he hopes they can come to a diplomatic resolution. One of the more sad moments during the State of the Union last night, the mother of Irina Zarutska was in the chamber for the State of the Union. You'll probably recall her daughter, Irina, she was on a subway train. And I believe it was in North Carolina, South Carolina. I don't recall all the details. This happened several months ago. A man came up behind her and out of the blue stabbed her viciously in the neck and left her to die right there on the train. This is someone who should not have been out on the streets. This is someone who had many different interactions with the law. Last night, President Trump invited her to be at the State of the Union for when he talked about crime and punishment. The Democrats sat down when she was introduced. They don't want Irina's story out there.
Arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail. Stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand?
Trump pointing it out again. The Democrats would not stand up for that. Why? You know, I mean, it doesn't mean you're endorsing the policy. It's respect for the person who's being honored and her daughter. Again, they're Ukrainian immigrants that fled Ukraine because of the war. They came to America seeking safety and a better life. And this is what happened to their daughter, Irina. Stabbed to death on a train by someone who should never have been there. The Democrats sat down for that. I mean, what are they trying to accomplish with that? I don't understand the strategy. I get that they disagree. They think there should be open borders. They think that the policy on immigration should be much more liberal. But I mean, for God's sake, that woman lost her daughter in a vicious, horrible way. I don't understand how you can be that heartless to sit down through that. But, I mean, hey, that's American politics. They're just as divided as we are. Last clip I'll play, and then I think I should come in just under 15 minutes, maybe a little over. President Trump honored the U.S. men's hockey team, the gold medal winning team last night. I'm going to play just a little bit of this.
People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
A pretty bombastic intro for the team. Nice to see everybody stand up in a unifying moment there. One thing that I don't think anybody saw coming, though, last night, President Trump announced he was awarding the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in America, to Connor Hellebuck, the goalie for Team USA and for the Winnipeg Jets, too. Hey, you play great in the Olympics and you get that medal. I didn't see that coming. That's not customary, nearest I can tell, but here we are. One more thing I want to play for you before we wrap things up. I'm very interested in what the U.S. is going to be and has been disclosing to the people. The Kennedy files, can't seem to find any resolution or conclusion there. Epstein files, seems like we don't have all the files, and it doesn't seem like we're any closer to justice for those victims. Now Trump has announced they're going to declassify the alien files. Well, one of the senators that I play fairly regularly here on Scott Fox After 9 is Senator Kennedy. He sat down with Benny Johnson the other day, and they talked about the declassification of this alien UFO stuff, and it was an interesting comment from Senator Kennedy. Listen to this.
You mentioned you heard me talk with Burchett about UFOs. Mm-hmm. You know, we've seen many interview clips of you out of this world. People love hearing Senator Kennedy give it to him straight. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's going on with these UFOs?
I have absolutely no idea.
Do you have a security clearance?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't matter. Okay. I'm not even sure that everything we know has been communicated to our presidents. It's not. I mean, if you completely trust government, you failed history class. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think there are people within government, I don't know whether it's the CIA or whomever, but I think they have information that has not been shared with the rest of us.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? That is a senior U.S. senator saying that, number one, if you trust the government, you probably failed history. That's an interesting lesson that has ramifications around the world, but by and large, he is absolutely right. He thinks possibly the CIA knows a lot of stuff, the Central Intelligence Agency, that the president doesn't even know. How is that possible that the leader of the country is not privy to certain information, that intelligence agencies are withholding information from the highest office in the land? I personally can't even fathom that. But here we are. Friends, I'm going to leave it at that. Have yourself a great day. I really appreciate your time. I hope that you found something useful in this episode. One of the things that I endeavor to do every single day is bring you a lot more context and a different narrative than you're getting from the mainstream media. You can turn on any television or radio station in Canada today, and they're probably slamming Donald Trump and his State of the Union. Maybe it's deserved, maybe it's not. I just felt like you should actually hear from the president in his own words. The narrative from the media is very negative and it's very anti-American. How about we just give you the audio, give you the information, and you make up your own mind? That's how it used to work until the mainstream media completely lost its way. Every single day, I endeavor to bring you a lot more than you're going to see or hear on the news and bring it to you in the newsmaker's own words. So again, you can make up your own mind. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll catch you right back here in less than 24 hours with another Scott Fox After 9. As I record, I know that Premier Doug Ford is doing a news conference down in Niagara Falls. I'm curious to see what that's about. We've got the Prime Minister. I think he's heading out on a trade mission today. Is this the day he's heading off to India, Australia, and Japan? I don't know. I can't keep track. But either way, whatever comes up today, I'll have it for you right here tomorrow on After 9. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I'll see you in less than 24 hours.
Oh,